Alright everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this particular video, I'm going to show you how to actually work with energy data. So I'm going to show you how to actually create this particular beautiful dashboard right on my screen. Let us look at the functionality of this particular dashboard. So over here is actually a measure we can actually switch right on. So if you look at it right now, what I've selected right here from this particular measure part is actually renewable energy. If I select non-renewable energy right here, look at what happens. It switches to this particular part. If I select energy consumed, we have this, depends on what we have selected right here. So not just that, if you actually look at it right now, I selected renewable energy, per kilowatt per hour. And this one is selected and it gives us 33 million. And we have it broken down by location and the year, and we have the year over year change right on it. So when the year went up, we have it as green. When it is down, we have it as red. So if we switch this particular one to non-renewable energy right now, we're still going to have something similar to that. Can you see it right now? This is exactly what it is. So now this particular one is actually 23.85 million, and we have it broken down by location, by month, and as well by seasonality. So which means whatever we select from here affects this particular chart and as well this particular seasonality chart right here. I'm going to show you how to actually create everything from the scratch. So one beautiful part of this particular dashboard is this particular part right here, which is a summary of the dashboard that will help you to make decision either to go for renewable energy or non-renewable energy. So if your aim is to learn how to use DAX in Power BI, I'm going to show you how to actually use DAX in Power BI using this particular, energy video and my other videos on this particular channel. So if you want to actually take a course from me, check out the description box and meet me in the class. Before we get started properly, let me walk you straight up quickly to the processes I take to create a very beautiful and dynamic dashboard inside Power BI or even Microsoft Excel. So the very first thing is the phase of planning of how your dashboard should look like. So over here, I'm actually using what I call quick note writing here. So this particular quick note will help you to actually create a diagram. That's only if you have a writing pad right here. I'm using a writing pad with a pen. So if you don't have this, you can do this on a paper, like a plain paper or any rough paper you have that can actually be used for this. So let us take this as the report view inside Power BI. It's going to be blank for the first time when you have it opened. Right now we have no data to work with. We're just going to work with the instructions given to us. So based on what we're going to create, we're going to have what we call a header right here. And this header is going to be further divided into two. This particular part will take the title of our dashboard. So while this part will take the summary of our dashboard, right? So the summary here has to do with the two types of energies that we have, compare them together and see which one is more profitable or which one people should go into and stuff like that. So we're going to be creating something like this right here to finally help the end users to understand the dashboard and how the data or the dashboard can actually help them. Okay, after this, we have to maintain what I call a white space. A white space is actually the space between this particular, line here and this particular one. Can you see? Now we're going to have a white space right here as well. So which means I'm going to have this particular card in here. Don't mind my rough sketching. So just take this like this. So over here is going to contain KPIs, right? So this is going to contain KPIs. And what are the KPIs we want to actually put in here? So we want to put in renewable energy, which is total renewable energy, and the non-renewable energy. So the total energy consumed right in here, and the emission factor, and as well the costs per kilowatt right in here. So one other thing you have to identify here, let me just do this inside a box here, is going to be what I call highlights, right? So highlights. So what is this highlight gonna do? So this highlight to actually highlight whatever has been selected. Let me just draw something here to further explain to you what I mean by that. So here we have another chart. This chart is going to be a column chart that contains the location. So it contains the year and year over year change inside one single chart. And inside the chart, we're going to have a particular slicer here that contains all of those particular measures we have right in here. So whenever a measure is selected from here, it's going to actually update what we have inside this particular chart, and we'll see the variance between location to location and as well year to year, right? So then whenever anything is selected from here, we want whatever has been selected to highlight the grand total over here. So if what is selected is cost, we want cost to be highlighted, while others is going to be disabled to keep focus on that. So we have to do something like this. So in the planning process, you have to plan what you want and you start searching for how you can actually get this done. So outside this now, we're going to have another chart right here, which is going to be our line chart. Don't forget to maintain the white space right here as well, the space between here and as well here. Okay, inside here is going to be a line chart. This particular line chart will feed from this particular one right here, which is whatever has been selected here that is highlighted will actually fill this particular line chart for us, so that we can see the monthly trend of the cost, the emission factor, the non-renewable energy, and as well the renewable energy that will be selected from here, right? So the next part of it is going to be this particular part where we are going to look at the seasonality, right? When I talk about seasonality, I'm talking about like, energy consumed in summer, in winter, right? And others right here. So this is going to feed from whatever is being selected from this particular slicer coming from parameter. And next again is going to be some kind of other 3 KPIs right in here. So this particular first KPI will take a percentage. This one will take a percentage as well. So the percentage of this one is going to be the percentage of the renewable energy share of the grand total and non-renewable energy share as well. While over here, we're going to be looking at the costs, right? Cost in total. So this is all we need. And we're going to be following what we have as a sketch right in here to develop something very beautiful inside PowerPoint. I think it is time for you to start loading the data into Power Query. See you there. If you just open the downloaded file, you're going to find this particular, numbers of workbooks that contains monthly data. So how do you get this loaded into Power BI? Do you have to do this one after the other? I guess no. Let's go back to Power BI. So over here we have a clean slate. There is nothing on it. It looks like when we just started drawing this particular diagram, that looks like this. So we have to give this life, and to give it life, we have to do it right here on this particular empty canvas. So over here, if you look at it, we can pick data from any of those particular sources right here. But unfortunately, the kind of data source we want to use is not actually here. So we have to click on get data from another source, or we can use this particular part to actually open up the other sources we have available, right? So let us quickly click on this. So those are all the other sources available to get data from. I'm going to use the folder option right here. All we have to do is to click on connect. So make sure it's selected, then go ahead and click on connect. So now we have this. We have to browse our computer to bring it up, but it's going to take us a little while because we have to open a folder and that one again before we get there. But to make it very easy, all we have to do is to visit back where we have the data right in and make sure you look at the folder. The folder is called data. So if you are using Windows 11, you have to right click and click on copy path right here. But for those of you using Windows 10 like myself, all you have to do is to use the copy path that you have right in here and make sure the part of the folder you want to create some kind of copy, the folder itself is actually selected and it's on highlight, just like this. So copy part. Done, right? So once you have done that, we go back in here again. You can paste in the part you've copied. So automatically it's going to throw out an error. If you look at it right here, it gives you an error. Let us look at what the error message is. So over here, it says the folder part must be valid directory name. So what makes it not to be valid right now? So we have this particular quotes here. Take it off and take this one at the starting point off as well. Then you're going to have something like this. The error is gone. Click on OK. We have 3 options right here. Oh, sorry, 4 options. The first option here says combine, and when you click on combine, it's going to give you 2 other options. And over here you have this one called load, and you have transform data, and you have cancel. So we are going to be using this particular one right here. Let's click on it. So clicking on combine now, it gives you 2 options. So the first option here says you have to some kind of combine and transform data, which means when you click on it, it's going to load this particular data into Power Query and bypass Power BI for now until you decide to load it into Power BI. While this particular one right here that says combine and load will combine it and load it into Power BI instead of taking it to Power Query for the first time. But that doesn't mean that your data is not inside Power Query. Yes, it is there. So let us choose the first option, which is combine and transform. Okay, the next thing we have to do right now is to click on OK. So we now have all the data or all the tables, the workbooks that is monthly is being combined together right now to give you one solid table. So can you see how easy it is to append data? So if you click over here now, you're going to have those 2 months right here. You can load more to see other months. Those are just the name or the source name of your file. We don't need this. What we need to do is to go ahead and remove it from here. Let me just take you far to this particular end. Over here, we're going to be calculating this particular percentage ourselves using DAX. So we don't need to keep this one. We have to remove it and use measure to have it handled. Okay. Once we have this right now, the next thing we have to do is to make sure we load this data into Power BI environment. So click on Home and click on Close and Apply. So over here, we have the data loaded in. This is the table here. And if you open it up right now, it's going to give you the columns available in it. If you want to see the live data, can you see it now? So here you can scroll through to see the data that you have. So in case your data types here are wrong and you want to fix it, which we have not talked about previously before now, what you need to do is to go back to Power Query. And to go back to Power Query, you can click on Transform Data and click on Transform Data in here. It has now jumped you back to Power Query. So quickly to fix any data type, you just click over here and those are the data types available for you. So date is correct, location is the text is correct, and those are decimal number. So this is correct to actually have it like this. So just for me to show you how to make any changes in case. So just close and load back. So it wouldn't take time to do that because we did not alter anything. So we have a simple table. There is no need for relationship for now, but later in the class, we're going to look at how to create a date table that contains this seasonality as well. So let's go back over here. So now it is time for you to start doing what we actually have right in here. Now that we have gotten our data loaded in, where do we start from? Now that we have gotten our data here, going back here right now, where do we start from? So do we have to start from the header here? Okay, I think for now, those parts are not really important yet. They are important in this particular project, but for now, we can keep them for later. Let us focus on this particular part for the first time. So creating this particular KPI is a must because we are going to need them to actually create something like this here, and as well something like this and others. So let us quickly do that. Now it is time to delve into the calculation part. So before we do anything, we have to create a new table here. That is going to be a disconnected table. So to do that, let us actually go over to this particular path. Then we can now see where it says, new table. So I'm going to name this one DAX House. Whatever you want to name it is a choice. So using this particular curly bracket here, you can actually store in maybe just one single value like one like this. So if it has to be text, remember it has to go into double quotation, otherwise you're going to have an error. So right now we have this particular table. If I come over here right now, so we have it right here. So it has no connection to this. All we're just doing here is to store in all our measures. So quickly going to the table view, we have the data here. So this is actually called an implicit measure, right? Everything here that are actually numbers are called implicit measure. So we can actually use this for analysis, but unfortunately, we cannot reuse it over and over again to customize the kind of calculation that we want. So let me prove that to you to see. If I come over to the data part here and actually take this particular renewable energy in here right now. So this is the total renewable energy by kilowatt. So we don't want every single countries or locations we have right here or there. So if I go over to the location here and drag in the location now, so you can see we have lots of locations, but based on the instruction, we are restricted to just 3 locations. That is the those locations like Atlanta, Chicago, and New York. So how do we do that? There are several ways we can actually get this done. We can do it by coming over here and say filter on this particular page and actually drag this particular location into here and actually select those ones we want to keep. So we want to keep Atlanta here. So we want to keep Chicago. We have to scroll through till we get Chicago here. And finally, we want to keep New York. So we go ahead and get to select New York. And that actually does the work for us. Okay, I'm going to clear this off to show you another way to get it done inside Power Query. So as you're loading your data in, you can actually have it done. So let's go back to Power Query by clicking on Transform. So we are right back to Power Query. We can limit the numbers of locations we load into Power BI environment. So all we have to do is to know the location we want, deselect everything and select Atlanta, select Chicago here, and you go straight down to select New York City. So which is this one now, and click on OK. So this actually narrow it down to only the focused area instead of us loading all the areas into Power BI. Just click on close and apply. So the same result we got the other time when we did it inside Power BI is what we have right here, right? Can you see that? Okay, now here we have an implicit measure. I want to actually create an explicit measure that I can reuse again. So let's just try it and see. So if I right click, I have to create a new measure over here. That is inside the DAX house, which is the table we created ourselves. Okay, I'm going to call this one here renewable. So I might want to show this particular open bracket, kilowatt per hour right here. It's very important. So putting an equal sign, you can actually do the sum function to sum this particular renewable energy right here. Then you close and hit your enter key. So this will give you the same action number like what you have right here right now. So the question you might have is, what is the difference? The difference is very simple and straightforward. So we can actually reuse this one in other calculations, but this one here cannot be reused. You get it right now? You cannot actually reuse this particular one. So that actually gives this particular one edge over this very one right here. So for that, we are going to go with this one here. So, and we have to discard this one. That doesn't mean we have to delete it from our table. So it actually supports, this particular, one here now. So I'm going to take it off. So to add other, calculations to it, I'm going to change it to the newer table that we have inside Power BI. Let's go over here and now scroll down a little bit. You can find this particular, card here that has new inside open bracket and close bracket right there. So I just have one in it. So we just have to go ahead and create a new measure. So right here, we have this particular one that just sum up the total non-renewable energy column. So which is going back here now, which is this particular column right here. So going back to here now is I would love to go ahead and bring this one into the card. So that gives us this. So we have to make sure we position it rightly. What we need to do in that particular case is actually, clicking over to here. And now we select the layout and go ahead and turn this one to column. So we want to show 5 different items. So we have to make sure we convert these 3 into 5. That is what you need to do. Then here we go. Right now we need to calculate the total energy consumption per kilowatt. So what we need to do is just to do, using the square bracket, it can actually easily give you the measures you have actually, created, even if you have hundreds of measures. So I can actually go ahead and take this number here and plus this particular one to it. You see it now? That is just how you can actually calculate the total energy consumed in kilowatts per hour. So we are going to push this one in as well. That gives us 3 different measures right in here. So we have what we call emission, right? That is the total emission, but we're not doing that because the emission, if you go over here now, as you can see, based on the data that we are given, so we have this particular emission in tons. So we have to make sure we convert this. So 1 ton here is actually equals to 1,000 kilogram. So we have to know the right formula to use, or the right way to calculate this for we to get the actual, number per kilogram. So what do we do in that particular case? So coming over here right now, we have to actually add a new measure. So we're going to call this one emission factor. Inside the bracket, we are going to create 2 kilogram CO2. So put it CO in caps, then we'll put the 2 right here. So you get it right now. So once you have done this, we're going to put an equal sign here. So to do this right now, what we need to do is to use the divide function. With the divide function, we are going to take that particular, I think we need to actually do the sum function here, using the sum function to sum this particular emission in tons. So once we have done this right now, the next thing we have to do is to make sure we some kind of multiply this by 100, or by 1,000 rather, to convert it into a kilogram. You get it right now. So we put a comma right on it, and we divide this by the total non-renewable energy. Total non-renewable energy. But wait a minute, if you have to do it by total non-renewable energy, that means you are only restricting the emission to be on the non-renewable energy. So instead of that, let us actually do it on both. So doing it on both right now, we don't have to use individual measures. So we can actually do it by the total energy consumed right here, which means we are doing this based on the renewable energy and non-renewable energy. We're getting the emission factor. So on the screen is displayed what emission is all about in energy consumption of a thing. So we have just calculated our emission factor here. We can actually bring this into our card, and here is the total emission factor right in here. So what other KPI do we want to calculate right now? The next KPI we have to calculate should actually be the energy costs, the energy cost per kilowatt. And we're going to be doing this based on the energy consumed. So how much does it cost, for people to use energy per kilowatts per hour? So to do that, we just have to go over here again and create a new measure. I think before we do that, we have one calculation to be created, which we are not going to display in this particular list of the KPIs right here, but we need it very well. So that is going to be just the energy cost. So this one here will be created later after this particular one. So we have to take off this particular part. So here is going to be the sum of the energy cost right here in USD. So you can actually identify this to be in USD. So here we go. So this is the total energy cost that we have, but we're not trying to look at that. We want to see how much does it cost for energy usage per hour whatsoever. So we just need to do this, new measure here. So now this is where the division comes in. So we divide the total costs here. So we do that by the total consumptions that we have. Here is it. So once you have done that, this will give us the cost of energy per kilowatt per hour. This is exactly what you need to understand. So quickly we have to, this is monetary, calculation. We have to make sure we convert this into dollar number formatting. And you don't have to have lots of decimal number. You might just want to use 2 decimal numbers. So you drag this right here, and you're going to have this huge number right here. So what we need to do right now is to make sure we actually click on the measure here and bring into this particular part. So hit your enter key. So, which means, energy consumption per kilowatt is actually 0.17 cent per hour. Can you see it now? This is the first KPI we have to create, and this is where we're going to leave this right in. So until we start shaping up our dashboard to make it look better, beautiful, and something that people can actually, engage and understand what is going on right on it. So this is what you need to create right now. So make sure you get right here before we go into the second phase of our dashboard. If you look at this particular chart here, it's an amazing chart from Nicholas Wright on LinkedIn. So I just looked at it and was like, okay, I want to integrate this right on this particular project so that everyone can actually learn from what he has done. He has some amazing work. You can check him out on LinkedIn. So what we have here now is that we have a region at this particular part, and we have the year and as well the changes right here. So over here, we have the value for 2021, 2022. So we have the changes to be positive, which is 50.2% growth. And for this one, we have it down by 14.3%. And this is just combined inside a single chart. So how can we integrate this into our project? Let's find out. Okay, now we are here. We have to insert a visual. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this visual to fill in this whole space for me. Later, after all, we can adjust. So the kind of visual I want us to use is actually this particular, closed chart, column chart here. So he used bar chart, we're using column chart. So I'm going to go ahead and drag in my location in here. And after that, we have to go to the measure we've created and drag in the total renewable energy. So we have something like this, but if you look at it right now, we are not in any way close to what he has done. So he has the years right in it. So do we have to actually bring in year from, oh, sorry, we don't even have a date table yet. Okay, but notwithstanding, what can we do? Oh, sorry, we have to actually create a table that will support that for us. So to get that done, go to this particular view, modeling view. Let me get this one collapsed here. Okay, over here we have what we call new table. Don't use that. Let's go back home. So now choose to use enter data. So we have 2 years of data. You have to verify how many years of data you have before you can have this done. So over here I'm going to type in year. So the first year is 2023. The second year is 2024. And over here, I'm going to have what is called changes. That is the changes between 2024 and 23, right? So once you have done that, you can come over here now and just make this one to be year table, then load it into Power BI environment. Now we have a new table. Going over here, we can take a look at our new table here. So here we have it, the year, and as well the changes. So if we go back here right now, we can like, okay, fine, now that we have gotten this here, what is next is for me to actually bring it in. So we can open up this one here and bring in this over here. Better. So let's just take a look at it. So if you look at what we have right now, we just have exactly what we created. So now over here, we have 2023, 2024 Atlanta, renewable energy used. And over here, we have the changes. But it seems to look some kind of out of point because right now it's giving us almost the same value. There is no changes between them. So what can we do? If I just right click now to verify that, I can go to show as table. And if you look at here, it has the same value all through. Can you see it now? All through Atlanta, all through Chicago, and over here, New York has the same value. What the heck is the problem? So how can we solve this particular, issue right here? Okay, it's easy. Let me show you. So first of all, we have to create a calendar table that can actually help us to, create a connection to our year table. Let's go over here, and now we click on new table. It's going to be a very simple calendar for now. Later, after all, we can update it. So I'm going to call this one calendar equals. So over here, calendar auto is what I'm going to use, but I have used a function called add column. Then I can bring in my calendar auto into it. So with my calendar auto close and comma, I'm going to actually add a column. That is going to be the year column here, which is very important to what we are doing. So using the year function, we can actually use this square bracket here and use this particular year that we have here. So tab key, close, and hit the enter key. So now we're going to have a date table that looks like this. So the next thing now, if you don't like this particular view, you can format it by clicking over here to have it formatted. So once you are done with this, please click on the table tools here and click on mark as date table. Turn this on over here, select this one and go over here and click on save. All right, nice one. Let's go over to this particular, relationship view here. So once we are here, the next thing we have to do is to look at how we can actually bring all of this together. So we have our calendar here. We have the DAX here. We have year dates here. This one is a disconnected table totally. We can keep it beneath here. So now on this particular one, what we're about to do is to make sure we actually, connect this particular date to our date right here. So you can drag it out of it. I'm going to drag this one on top of this one here. That creates many to one relationship for me. So the next thing we have to do right now, this particular table right here does not have a direct link to this particular one. So we're going to link this particular table to this very one here, and indirectly it will definitely have, some kind of connection to this particular table. You see that right now? So to get that done now, drag this particular year onto this year right here. That creates one-to-many relationship for you. So we have this, right? Let's go back here. As you can see, it has fixed the issue right here. But one other issue popped again. What is wrong? Oh, don't panic. It's nothing. So if you look at it right now, previously we have the changes between them, but right now the changes has disappeared from this particular path. So what can we do to bring it back? So we need to write the DAX that will help us to bring back the changes we have between them. So let's get it. So usually I always put my measures outside my tables, but this time around I want to keep the measures organized right here inside your year table. So right click and create new measure. Okay, with this here now, we're going to call this one year over year change. So whatever you want to call it. So year over year change. Now, what do we do? We're going to use the if function to quickly ask if there is a selection from the year table, and that selection is actually changes, then do something for me. So we have a function that can actually check what is being selected, but this function only works with when we have one single selection. That is going to be the selected value right here. The selected value, based on what you can see right here right now, is actually looking for, a column, and that column should actually come from this particular table, and that column is this particular column here to tell us if changes is selected or is actually in view. Okay, so we're going to call the year table and bring in this right here. To better read this now, here what we have here is actually the name of the table. This particular part is the name of the table, while this one is actually the actual column we are trying to reference to. Okay, so once we have gotten this now, we can close this and actually ask if it is equals to changes. You see that now? Now, over here is not a selection, but just because we have it existing inside the table that produces the 2023 and 2024, it will definitely work later after all. So once we have done this now, we can put a comma right on it. So we want to say now, if that is the case, that there is changes between the 2023 and 2024, we want to create a variable that we want to store in a new calculation. And that new calculation should be called value 2023 equals. So now we want to affect the filter context of the total renewable energy. So if I hover over this right now, look at the tooltip. The tooltip gives us what? Gives us total renewable energy. And this is the number right here, right? So we are going to be using this particular number to get what we want to do done. So over here, we only want to calculate for 2023. So for that, the calculate function would have to come into play. Let's do it. So using the calculate function now, we bring in total renewable energy right here. So putting a comma right now is asking for filter. If you look at here, it's asking for filter. So quickly, before we provide any filter to it, we have to actually say, you know what? We want to remove filter from somewhere. Remove filters, and that filter should be removed from the year table right here. So once we have done this, we just have to close this and say comma. All right. The next thing we have to do right now is to tell it what to calculate for, or what to recalculate for. Remember, I told you we have two different types of measures. So we have the implicit measure and we have the explicit measure, which I've shown you from the beginning of this particular DAX part of our project. So now here on highlight is my explicit measure, and it gives me a particular number. Now I want to change the number to only look at 2023. So what I'm going to do right here, right now, is to actually go ahead and actually use a format function. This format function is going to go to my dates column inside the calendar table I just created and format it into year for me, into 4. So if that is done, it's going to find if there is some kind of 2023 in it. Then if there is, do the calculation and only calculate total renewable energy in 2023 for me. You get it now? So now we are done with this. So if I am doing this alone, I would have copy and paste and just make changes. But just because we are in this together, let us do this again for 2024. So now we have to create a new variable. Inside this particular variable underscore value 2024 here. So put an equal sign. And over here, we have to use the calculate function as usual. And we do that by total renewable energy, which is the same measure we have inside our chart. So we put a comma right on it. Over here, we actually say remove filters. We'll bring in the year table in here. So we close comma and we do format just like usual. And this format should affect the date from the calendar table. So put a comma here. So it can be in lowercase, not necessarily in uppercase, because it's not some kind of case sensitive. And we want to check if it is equals to 2024. So we just have to make sure we place this inside our quotes. It's very important, right? So once done, we'll close this. So we have just done this now, and this will give us exactly what we want. The next thing now is to go ahead and return this. So when doing this return, we are going to use the max function here. The max function is actually looking for two different things: scalar value or column name. So we're going to use two of them. So the first one should actually be the one that has value 2023, and the second one here, you have to pay attention to the intelligence right here to see what exactly I'm actually providing. So it's going to be 2024 here. So we go ahead and close. Now this will do for if the value is true. So what do we provide when the value is actually false, which means it's not true? So now when the value is false, we want to actually give it the measure total renewable energy. So we go ahead and close for our if function. I believe this is well understood. Then I'm going to hit my enter key to commit this. This is all you need to actually create this kind of chart. But we have more to it though, not just all. Okay, where do we use this? I think we have to take this off and bring this in here. Can you see it now? Right away, we have back this, and this. So what is going on here? So between 2023 and 2024, we have, we have this particular part here to be the changes between them. So the same thing, this particular one is the changes between this particular one and this one. And as well, this particular one here is actually the changes between this very one and this very one. Can you see it now? What do we do next? We have to turn on the data label. So if we go back right now, let's see, are we in any way close to what we have right here? Yes, I think a little bit, not that. So we want to actually bring in this particular percentage and change the color and stuff like that. Let's do it. Okay, to bring back the percentage now, if we now go over to this particular format here and we turn on the data label here, so it does not work. It does not work. So what can we do to make it work? We have to get this one away from here. Now we need to create another, a measure that will help us to store in the percentage. But don't be panic. This time around, we don't need to write huge measure for this. We just have to go over here and do this particular copy and right click to create a new measure. So do give me a heart if you feel what I'm doing right now. If you feel like it's actually giving you joy and it's going to help your project, just give me a heart on the comment section. Let me know that you're watching. So I'm going to paste this over here. And instead of having this particular year-over-year change, so I'm going to have percentage right on it to differentiate it from the mean value. Okay. Now that we have done this now, the next thing I have to do is just for me to some kind of go over to the return part right here and make this different. Okay, so I'm going to take off this particular part here, and now I'm going to use the divide function. So with the divide function, what do we need to do? So we're going to say, okay, fine, you know what, underscore 2024, we're going to subtract underscore 2023 from it, but we have to place it inside open and close bracket like this. Then once we are done, we're going to divide that by underscore 2023. I don't know if you get me right. So this is all we need to do. So if I hit my enter key right now, I have just created my percentage without writing the previous, ones, which is this one from here to here. That is not what it is. So let's go over to here now and now see how we can actually use this right here to make sure we show the percentages. So now we have to make sure the chart is selected and turn on data label. Click on this one here. We have to go over here and scroll down until you have the value area. Then change this one to this. So you cannot see it's only affecting the changes alone without we showing it up on the years. But wait a minute, this is not showing us percentage. Does it mean your calculation is wrong? Don't worry, I'm going to correct it. So we have to come over here and make sure we format this as a percentage. So do you believe this will solve the whole problem? I guess yes, I guess no. Let's find out. It does, but it's still showing 0.0m percentage. What we can do right now is to go straight up down here to where we have auto here. We're going to convert this to none. And that gives us the right percentage. We can actually crank this up to 14 so that we can see it better. Can you see this right now? This is what we have. So successfully, we have gotten what we wanted to see. And now if we go back to what this particular person had done, we are very much close to it. But what about the candlestick? How do we actually bring this up? Okay, before this particular candlestick right here, we have this particular color that shows positive, the red shows negative. So how do we get something like this done? Let's go back. Now to get that done now, we have to still come back here and copy this from here, but not so quick. If we look at it right now, this shows minus because they are actually declining. This is actually a growth because it is not negative, it is positive. What if I show a plus sign to show that this is growth? I think that will make lots of sense. Oh, yes, that will definitely make a lot of sense than what we just have here. But this person here gave us the idea of how to get it done. So, respect. Coming back here right now, we have to format this by just going straight up to here. And instead of us getting this as a return, we rather store this as a variable. So, underscore result. So we now store this as a result. Now, coming down here now, we need to do the return. So under the return here, what we're going to do is to use the if function. Okay, with the if function right now, I want to check if underscore result here is less than 0, then we want to see underscore result. Otherwise, we want to actually say plus inside double quotes like this, with an ampersand to concatenate this particular result with it, something like this. So once we are done, we can go ahead and close and hit the enter key. This will definitely give us what we want. But I'm so sorry that this is not going to work just like what you think. Now the changes here disappeared. What happens if I maximize it? It shows up here. So it's telling us that, you have formatted me, but I'm sorry, I have lots of decimal. You have to actually do another formatting to make sure you limit me to, the right percentage. So for the negative one, it's not affecting it, but for the positive one, it does affect it. So what do? Let's go back here. Now to get that formatted, we have to come over here and just put, format. Then come over here now and do double quotes 0.0% and do this, then close the format. So over here we have to put our cursor here, so don't worry, put a comma here to get off the error. So we do under format here again, so we come over here, comma 0 inside double quotes, So 0.0%, we close this and we hit our enter key. This will definitely solve the problem 100%. Can you see it right now? If I go off, you can see it is okay, it's working fine. But I have an issue here. You can see I repeated this particular format over and over again, and it's making my DAX code to look a little bit complex. So what do I do to make sure I narrow it down and make it look better? So I'm going to Ctrl Z to take it back to the normal position. Then come over here now and do variable. Inside this particular variable, I'm going to call this particular variable formatted PCT for percentage. So using the format function here, I can reference the results and put a comma here inside double quotes 0.0%. If you want to decimal places, you put 0.00%, but right now this is okay. So once we have gotten this done, the next thing we have to do right now, instead of us showing results here, we rather show the formats underscore format PCT here. The same thing to this particular one. So you can see we don't have to repeat the format over and over here. We just have to do it once here and reuse it right here. And this will still give us the same exact result we got the other time. Let's check it out. So there is no changes. Now we have this. Okay, the next thing you might be thinking of right now that is not on this particular one is that this one does not show values right for 2021, values for 2022, as well for this particular one, this one, this one, this one, and as well those particular two right here. So what do we do to actually make sure we bring in the actual value that needs to be there? It's something very simple. Let's get it. Okay, let us scroll down and look at this one says detail. Click on detail, click over here, add data, go over to this particular DAX house and bring in total renewable energy. So once you have done that, you can actually increase this to something like 14. Then it pops out very well. So if you look at it right now, we have 6.3 million. Here is 5.5 million. And the changes is actually by 13.2%. And the growth here is actually, 17.6%, because here is lower compared to this one. Can you see how it makes more sense? Shout out to whoever come up with this. And that is Nicholas. Okay. Now, the colors. Yes, you get me right. So those particular numbers here, they're not readable. We have to make sure we use some kind of conditional formatting to make the percentages stand out. So over here, I don't have to do it from the scratch. I can actually create a new measure outside here and reference this particular percentage year over year change, but unfortunately it wouldn't work. So why would it not work? That was because this particular part now has made it to be a text. And how do you know if a measure is a text? None of this here will be active. Can you see? So what do we do instead? We can actually go ahead and Ctrl C to copy it. After highlighting it, then we create a new measure. So paste this one in, and instead of us to return this here, so I'm going to still use the if function. This time around, this one has no value. You can get it off. So using the if function here, I'm going to say if underscore result is some kind of, so it's greater than 0, then we want to have 1. Otherwise, we want to have 0. Then we go ahead and close this one. So we've just done what we wanted. So we hit the enter key. Oh no, we have not changed this. So let us go ahead and change or rename the measure itself. So I'm going to put in here CF. So here we go. So maybe the question you might have in mind right now to ask me, if you can see me one-on-one, is like, why do you have to use 1 and 0 right here? Why don't you just use the right color, maybe hex code or red, blue, whatsoever you want to use? Oh, I'm going to tell you that, you know what? I can have more control over my colors by doing this instead of what you are proposing or thinking of. So let's see how we can actually make use of this right on our chart. So remember, we have this particular percentage here from the value area. So we have to scroll up, and we are here under the value area. So we have to actually do our formatting right here, specifically by using the FX. So if I just manually change this now to something like this, you can see it differentiates this particular, can you see it now? This is what it is. So you don't have to manually start changing things around here. So you can do it dynamic by clicking on FX. So now we have the row. If I add one now, we have to make sure we select the CF, conditional formatting, which is this one. So add a new row. So if I do this, I'm going to have an issue or an error. It wouldn't work, but I'm going to tell you why. Don't worry. Let's go over here and choose this 0, and we convert this to just 1. So for where we have 0, we want to have red. For where we have 1, we want to have a particular green color, like this one here. Later after all, we can actually, start selecting any of the greener part right here to see what matches the kind of background that we have. That is where this particular kind of formatting comes to play, and it outshine, those one that you actually hand code in it. Okay, let's go ahead and click on OK. If you look at it right now, it partially worked. So this one here is correct. This one here is correct. But this very one here, it is not correct. So it should have given us green. That was because we forgot to do something. So click on FX. You might not have it, this kind of error. So if you do have it, make sure you come over here and change this to number. Change this to number. Then you click on OK. So now we have the green color here. That shows that this is working. All right, everyone. What about a candlestick? I'm talking about something like this here. So how do we actually have this in it? So it's very important. We should actually see how to do it. So coming over here right now, so we need to actually add 2 more measures to have that done. So if I right click right now, I can do that. But what if we decide to go over to this particular one and copy from here? Can you see it now? Look at what I've copied. Just copy something like this here. Create a new measure. So we have pasted it here. So we need to give our measure a name. So the measure should be called value 2023. So equals. So now we just want to put comma here. We have to close for calculate. So once we close for calculate, we put a comma on it. I presume, is there any error somewhere? So we close for the if function. So now it's giving us an error. So let's just look at what the error might be. So here we have this. Yes, we don't need to have variable any longer. We have to take off the variable and the error is gone. So we can put a comma here now and say if there is no result, we just want to see blank. So it's a precaution. You might want to have this. So just go ahead and hit the enter key. This is all you need to do for 2023. Then you have to copy this and recreate it for 2024. So let's go ahead and create a new measure. So here we put 2024. So do you know you can actually select it and do it all at once? Select this particular part here. Do Control Shift and L. L for lion, L for love. So, and do 2024 all at once. Then hit your enter key. This will definitely give you what you want. All right, once we have done this right now, the next thing we have to do is to look at how we can actually create that particular candlestick or stick candle, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I'm just joking. So coming down straight up to here, we can click on arrow bars, scroll down, and over here, turn on this. So there is no bars right now. What is the problem? So that is where we need to actually use these particular values right here. So the first one to come in should be my 2023 right in here. And the second one should be my 2024 on the lower bound. The upper bound and the lower bound is very important. Can you see this right now? Okay, it's looking more like what we have right here from Nicholas, but how do we make this particular part here to disappear? Let's go back all the way up. So we have the column here. That is where we have to control our colors. So under this particular categories here, so you might have yours on all. So when yours is on all, you can make changes to the color by using this, and the whole color changes. So whatever color you want to select right now will change everything. But now in case we just want to select this particular Atlanta, changes here, and make sure we put it on 100%. We come over here, we select Chicago, changes, we put it on 100%. So we now come over here, we select New York City, and make sure we change it to 100%. So this will give us something closer, almost 99% closer to this. So here, can you see it now? So if you look at it right now, we have like a minus at the top and bottom of the candlestick. So how do we take this up? That is another thing we have to start thinking of. Let's go back to the arrow bars right here. So first of all, we have the bars which we can turn off and turn on as well. So we have markers right on them. So we just turn off the markers if you want to have the markers gone. Then once we have done that right now, we actually open up this one and change the weight to actually control how, thick it will be. So can you see it now? You can have the color changed by clicking on this one and choose a different color for it. Something like this, or you can decide to use a darker version of it, like this very one here. So if we go back right now, you can see we have actually created something that looks just like this. So this is what you need to do to have this kind of chart created. So next right now is for we to look at how to format the chart itself, because it's very busy. So go all the way up, and now we start from the y-axis. Your y-axis is this particular part right here. So we have to turn off the value and as well the title. So now this is great. So for the x-axis, the title called year shouldn't be there. So we go to this and we scroll all the way down and turn off the title. That is beautiful. So the next thing we have to do is to make sure we crank up the font a little bit. Now this is better. Can you see this now? We have just created this chart that shows the changes between 2023 to 2024 in Atlanta, Chicago, New York, and it's all about you doing it based on a particular measure. So next right now, we're going to look at how we can switch this, based on whatever is right here. You get it right now? Based on whatever is right here.